welcome into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time for the top 15 cornerbacks. There will be a few gems that we will go through at the end of the video. I think I have 3 gems in this video, so stay tuned for that. Or you could always, fast forward if you want to through these. But yeah, that's what this video is. This is going to be putting the cap on a not-so-successful video series. So if you like this video too, please like, comment, subscribe it to help it, and as well as be aware of the fact that you can go onto my channel and find these types of videos for every position. Sometimes I have 2 positions in one video, but I have covered every position at this point, and I'll be turning a new leaf over to a new series, which I assume at this time of the year will be more popular than this one. So thumbs up to that being more successful. But nonetheless, I'm happy to get this information out there for those who want to hear it, and as proof of where I have these guys ranked. But that doesn't mean things won't change. We're still about a month out before the draft. There will be some movement, but we're getting to a point where I've got a pretty good idea of where these guys are going to end up in my rankings here. So without further ado, I think it's just time to get into this. Let's also don't if you didn't see, I did put out a video with my my 2.0 mock draft 3 rounds. You can go up on the website, www.TheFantasyFootbalForge. There should be a link down in the description to see my descriptions for the first round of there, and then on in the video I went through the second and third rounds. I zoomed through the first round as well in the video. So let's start off with the quarterback 15 in my rankings. He is a 6 foot flat, 199-pound guy, so quite girthy. He's got some good, a good thicker build to him. He's an asset in the run game with that build. A very good route recognition kind of guy, versatile in coverage, and he's only 21 years old. So nice, solid prospect here in Kalen Carson, who I really like the tape on. That said, the ball production profile, it wasn't really there throughout college. His technique does need some work still. There is some projectness to him. Third round project aren't really quite what you want, depending on the upside to Kalen Carson and where you think that is. Like I said, I like a lot of what I see from him, but he is quite possibly going to be prone to being a little bit grabby, getting penalties at the next level, especially if he doesn't fix that technique. So I think fixing that technique could go a long ways for Kalen Carson. And just a guy that I like quite a bit. Let's move on to my number 14 cornerback in Andrew Phillips. And Andrew is really a my guy in this draft. 5'10" and a half, 190 pounds. So he is also on the thicker side as far as his build goes. He's going to bring you some inside-outside flexibility. He is quick and he is extremely explosive, and he's been good in zone coverage. His man coverage skills did not grade out as well as his zone coverage skills, actually to the opposite effect of that, quite poorly. But he is a guy that you can bring in, and I have a little bit more faith in the overall game, including those man coverage skills. But, the league is mostly in zone coverage. Like, I think the least a team is in zone coverage is like 65% of the time or something like that around the entirety of the league. So being good in zone coverage can go a long ways. And what I really liked about him was just he stood out to me at the Senior Bowl. He was a guy who got to see him face up against a bunch of different body types, a bunch of different players in Ladd McConkey, Johnny Wilson, Jamari Thrasher, 3 kind of different types of players. And he covered them all, short, intermediate, deep range, quite well. Totally, once again, different types of receivers and in different areas of coverage. And he did lock down, actually, on all 3 of those 3 big names who are going to be going fairly highly in this draft. I think most teams like their slot cornerback, their nickelback, to be able to help against the run. That is an area that Andrew Phillips did not grade out as well in either, not great at finishing up. Even if he gets to the runner, he's not a great tackler either. So I do think you're probably going to want to work him on the outside in most schemes, and there is a little bit of, but his skill set maybe works a little bit better on the inside, outside of how bad he is against the run, poor he is against the run. So teams might see him as a little bit more of a project than I would like to think that he is, but I really like him. Another guy with not a whole lot of ball production, too. 0 interceptions last year in college. So there's Andrew Phillips. Once again, my guy. That's going to bring us on to my CB13, Kyrie Jackson. Another guy I've got a third-round draft grade on him. By the way, Andrew Phillips, Kalen Carson, also third-round draft grades on them. Kyrie Jackson is 6'3.5", and he's rather slender at 198 pounds. If the other guys were going up towards 190 pounds, but they were about 4 to 6 inches shorter almost than Kyrie Jackson. So to give you a good idea of the difference in the thickness of Kyrie Jackson compared to those guys. He is good to great in run support despite being a little bit more thin, and he is good in zone coverage. He has very long arms, wingspan, and arm length to match that long, slender body of his. He's ultra competitive player with very quick acceleration, and he's not going to lose in the hands battle, even though he is a little bit more slender. He does have a stronger upper body to him. Where he's not going to be so great here, the ability to change his direction is not so great, and he tends to get a little bit overly aggressive. That said, another guy who stood out to me at the Senior Bowl on day 3 specifically, I thought he was absolutely, in his bag on that day. He was a lockdown kind of receiver all of day 3. So you kind of saw the upside to Kyrie Jackson at the Senior Bowl stood out there, and a lot of the tape, matched what I saw. This is going to bring us to the number 12 CB on my board, second to third round draft grade on him. 5'10.5", 190 pounds. So another guy who's has a good amount of thickness to him. You're not too worried about the durability for him. He's great in man coverage, quite to the opposite effect in zone coverage. He's a high IQ player. He's very quick in small places. But on the other side of that, he does lack elite straight line speed. He's rather on the short side, not great at high pointing the ball. So Josh Newton might be some guy who teams will be looking at putting into their slot if they feel comfortable putting there. He does have, I think, a profile that works mostly better for covering the shorter, shiftier guys than trying to cover on the perimeter there. But also matchup guy, kind of depends the team and what they have out there on the perimeter and what they have in the slot, because they come in all different sizes, shapes, and skill sets all across the offense these days. Other than that, he does have 3 years of good production for him, a slightly down year in 2023 as well on top of that, but still a good year. And once again, 3 years of production, you like to see that. He's been a solid player, and I do think that there's a pretty good chance that he will continue to be a solid player at the next level, if not a very good one. That's going to bring us on to my number 11 CB of the 2024 NFL Draft, and that is Mike Sanistrell, who I have a straight second-round draft grade on, and somebody who I had a second to third-round draft grade on, ended up pushing him into the second-round draft grade here, just barely. So still a second half of the second round, I think, at the highest level, but Mikey's a very interesting prospect, 5'9.5", 182 pounds. He tackles like a safety. He tracks the deep ball very well, very good in zone coverage. Route recognition is a strength of his, above average quick acceleration kind of guy, which is what you want to see for a guy who is a slot-only player, nickelback kind of coverage. He has above average to very powerful lower body, power, and agility as well, which is just going to go into his ability to cover, once again, anybody in the slot really is where you want to see that the most. Change of direction ability, balance, just ability to take on man-to-man and not lose your footing, not get pushed over or anything like that. Once again, he's been great in coverage, and that is extra special because he converted from wide receiver to cornerback in 2022. He's 23 years old at this point in time, and he's obviously rather new to the position. He's only been playing the position since he was 21 years old for the last 2 years, and he has put out good production both of those years. So he is a guy who's still growing, but versatile-wise, he is limited to that slot-only role. So those things kind of work against him and work for him in terms of the ceiling for him. So it's a limited ceiling, but he also hasn't hit that ceiling yet, which is what's exciting about him, or you hope he hasn't. He is extremely short and very light, so that kind of works against him. But like I said, he tackles like a safety. He doesn't play like he's undersized or anything like that. So you just hope he can improve his ability, put on a little bit of weight, get a little bit stronger against the run. That was something that holds him back. But as far as a coverage guy, man, he's sticky like glue. So that's going to bring us into the top 10 cornerbacks. And before we get to the top 10 cornerbacks, let's hear a quick word from my sponsor. Me, Steve, of the Fantasy Football Forge. I wanted to make you aware of some of the benefits that you can receive by becoming a supporting member of the channel for the low price of 99 cents. Upon becoming a channel member, you will receive a link to a Discord channel where you can communicate with the community on whole, and at this time of draft season, you will also receive access to a bunch of extra benefits. Number 1. Write-ups for each player I've scouted at each position, some of their strengths, their weaknesses, and extra notes that I wrote about each of them. Number 2, my positional draft board with players in order of their draft grade via round, first round, second round, second/third round draft grade, etc. Number 3, my top 50 big board. Thank you very much for any and all of your support. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Welcome back. And in at my number 10 CB, we have Renardo Green, who I have a straight second round grade on him as well. 6 foot flat, 186 pounds. And this is a name that you might be familiar with if you listen to some of the same folks here on YouTube that I do. He's definitely been a guy who some people have mentioned as like their gems, standout players at the Shrine Bowl, etc. So his name has been getting around. Florida State guy, so he's experienced, kind of a plug and play prospect, and yeah, there's not a whole lot to dislike about him. He's got good play speed. I would say better than what his 40 might suggest. Not that his 40 was bad. He is a pure technician, so everything works smoothly when he's playing. He's best in man/press coverage without being so physical that he'll get flagged a lot. So he's kind of got that, he knows when to hold off a little bit on the physicality, which is always good. You don't want someone getting a whole bunch of flags on you. Outside of that, it could get a little bit better in run support, but you should be able to keep him out on the perimeters where it's going to be less important that he be able to help in the run support. And sometimes he does get a little bit overly aggressive, but, hey, I'd rather somebody that gets a little bit overly aggressive than somebody who's too passive, probably. In most schemes, I guess that's a little bit just dependent upon, the head coach and what they want. So there's Renardo Green, really, really cool prospect. Once again, very much a plug-and-play type of guy once you get him. Does he have the highest ceiling in the world? Maybe not, but he's got a pretty good floor. So that's going to bring us on to Ennis Rekestra Jr., my 9th ranked cornerback. And he is 6'1.5", 183 pounds. He's going to give you a little bit more of that versatility. You can line him up on the inside in the slot. You can put him out on the perimeter against the X wide receiver if you'd want. He plays bigger than he is. That's part of the reason why he works out on the outside, and he's 6'1.5", so it's not like he's small. He's got some excellent footwork. He's got good football IQ. Best in man coverage, but zone coverage is not like a knock on him by any means. And he's going to be a great help in the run game, which is where bringing him on the inside could be to your advantage as well. And once again, that versatility dependent upon injuries happen throughout the season, so having a guy who you can move around is always helpful. He had 1 interception in 3 years at college, so he's not a big playmaking kind of guy. He just plays smart and prevents things from happening. He's got long speed, tackling, his size, he's quite slender, are all going to be weaknesses. And unfortunately for him, that slenderness is truly something that has held him back. He has had some injury concerns, and then he came into the combine, and he didn't quite have the athletic testing that a lot of people wanted to see from him. Was closer to being on the poor side than anything. So all those things are holding him back a little bit, but I'm going to take a risk on Ennis Rackstraw at a certain point, and for me, this was the point, right ahead of Renardo Green, just liking the dog mentality that Ennis Rackstraw Jr. has in him, a little bit more than what Renardo Green has to offer, and the versatility as well. But the injury upside could definitely turn somebody off on him, have him off of some people's boards, etc. But I can't leave people off of my board because I'm not drafting for a team, I'm drafting for every team. So that's going to bring us on to my wide receiver 8, Max Melton. I just realized, too, just to give you an idea of the dog in Ennis Rackstraw Jr., going back to him, he models like everything about his game after Jair Alexander. That's words from his mouth. That's who he looks up to. That's who he wants to be when he's on the field. Jair, if you're not familiar, I mean, very much talks a lot of smack. Still a positive, upbeat kind of guy, but he's always jawing, and that's part of his game, and he likes to be physical and mentally tough against his opponents, I suppose would be a good way to put it. So that's going to bring us on to Max Melton, who is, if anybody, my guy of the cornerbacks for me, the primary my guy. And Max Melton is 5'11", 193 pounds. And I just love how he plays. He not only plays with a high and hot motor, but he also plays with, tenacity to go kind of along with that, both physically and in just how aware he is of what's going on. He is tenacious. He's good in both man and zone coverage. But what I like the most about him is you combine all of that tenacity and that hard-working mentality with a guy who's also, I would say, a high IQ player. He sits on routes with this real good patience, and he has this ability to jump the ball extremely well and just time it so he's getting to where he needs to be in perfect timing. Like, he's in sync with his own athletics. He understands when he's going to have to pop, and he sees it coming early enough, too, that he's able to make it to those spots. He's also got an above-average arm length and wingspan to help him, get there, get his arm around, knock balls down, etc. Tackling is not a strength of this. He is a willing tackler, and he can, lay down a couple of hit. What am I trying to think of from Madden? He'll have a couple of highlight reel tackles here and there, but he'll also whiff and miss, and guys bounce off guys from time to time as well. He is not the quickest. He does not have the best footwork in transitions when backpedaling. That would be some of the concerns for man coverage to me at the next level, especially if you want him to be out on the perimeter of your coverage. But I think he's versatile. He could be on the he's on the inside or the outside as a slot or perimeter coverage guy. I think maybe you tend to lean towards putting him in as a slot cornerback. That's where I would tend to lean, and then having him as your CB3 when injuries happen. Another thing I like about Max Melton is that he has shown improvement year over year over year. Each year that he's been in college, he has improved, and I saw a bit of a trend in how well he performed, that when he was going up against the stiffer competition that his team met throughout the college football season, he tended to show up better for those games. Ohio State was his 4th highest PFF graded game, so, showed up for those games where he's really going to be tested hard, and I like that mentality of, showing up for the biggest of time periods and the biggest of games. And on top of that, he is going to bring you some special teams upside, which is always an advantage and helps to, have a guy who's going to be remaining on your roster, which obviously you're taking him in the 2nd round, 3rd round. You're expecting him to be on your roster, but hey, another reason to keep him on your roster. That's going to bring us on to TJ Tampa, who has his pro day in a few days yet. And that could impact exactly where we end up having him in our rankings. But the expectation is that he's going to have, he's going to test pretty well. So hopefully that will come through. He is 6'1", 189 pounds. 2nd round draft grade on him as well, my CB7. He's got fluid footwork. He is quick despite his size there. He got good size, 6'1", 189. Well, it's probably about normal thickness there for him. He has a forced incompletion percentage of 20.7%. That is in the 98th percentile, so you love to see that. He played off coverage a lot, and he has the build to play man-to-man as well, and he was used in man-to-man coverage more in 2023 than he was in 2022, so that is a part of his game that you are seeing grow. He has above-average arm length and a very good wingspan, so that always helps. His athletics, once again, should be a positive for him. And other than that, the forced incompletion percentage was very high, but in terms of turning that into an interception, that was not common for him. And often enough, on big tacklers, he would whiff. On big tackles, he would whiff instead of just, assuring the tackle up. He's a risky tackler. He played wide receiver previously, and he also played basketball, so multi kind of sport, positional athlete, and he is still 21 years old. Good in coverage. 2023 was a bit of a down year from 2022, but both were still very good seasons. So look for TJ Tampa to possibly, he's a guy who could end up being a steal at the end of the day, I think, in this draft with where he is going. I wouldn't quite say the best cornerback is within realistic reach. Of course, it could always happen, but I would say being like the third best cornerback is definitely possible for TJ Tampa in this draft class. So that's going to bring us on to my number 6 cornerback in Kamari Lassiter, a guy who has had a pro day that is the entire reason of why we'd prefer these guys just all run at the NFL draft. So we can just all run on an even field, and we know that the timing is trustworthy and the same across the board as well when comparing apples to apples. Unfortunately, Kamari had he had 2 different competing times, one like a 4.5 something and one like a 4.6 up to into the 4.6s come out from both trustworthy sources. Which one is true or more accurate? I don't know, and I don't know that anybody truly knows. So you got to just go back to what you see on the field. He's 5'11" and a half, 186 pounds. So that's probably right around normal body thickness, girth. He's ultra quick and physical. His click and close game is strong. Shuttles and cone drills were above average to very good for him. Once again, don't believe those were ran at the combine. He is fundamentally sound, and he had 10 forced incompletions. Ultra sticky kind of guy. That is an elite number. Only 38.5% of the throws against him were completed. So that's the elite number there. That's very, very good. And it's just I think the fundamentally sound really covers it well there for Kamari Lassiter. The question is does he have the athletics to be able to compete at the next level? Because his game is based on the fundamentals, not on the athletics. Ultimately, what it comes down to, I think, is that he's probably, I think the athletics are there. He doesn't seem to be that slow on film. And most likely, he has a very high floor CB3 in the worst case scenario. And CB2 is probably like the most likely scenario for him. So still a big fan of Kamari Lassiter, only 21 years old yet, and he played against tough competition in college. That's going to bring us up onto my top 5 cornerbacks in this class. There we go. Let's see who is coming in at number 5. Are we in the first round yet? Yes, we are, with Koolaid McKenry, who gets a first and 2 second round draft grade on himself. He's 5'11", 199 pounds, which puts him into a very thicker profile there for the cornerback position. He's great in press man coverage. He jams well. He's got good hand placement. Once again, just being the well-built dude is going to help with that. And he's got high IQ as well. He started as a freshman for Nick Saban, which says a lot. That's not incredibly common. He's good to great in-run support. He plays hard along the line of scrimmage against screens, and he's got long arms to, like I said about Max Melton, reach around there and chop the ball from behind. As far as weaknesses go, he does get a little bit grabby when he's in that intermediate coverage, starts to get beat a little bit, something like that, or starts to think that he's about to be getting beat. So you'd like to see that not turn into penalties at the next level. And part of the reason he does that is he does lack top-end straight line speed. Not that he doesn't have adequate speed, and he also lacks some quickness to his game, much like, but to a more extreme extent, Kamari Lassiter. Koolaid McKenry has a very high floor. His floor is more like a CB2 with CB1 upside, is just how it goes. And still, too, the athletics might be a little bit of what's holding him back from being that CB1. He had the second highest forced incompletions in 2023, so very good stat there, and he is 21 years old. So, yeah, he's still very good, even though he has fallen behind his teammate, who will be coming up shortly on this list, even though coming into the season, Koolaid McKenry was the CB1, but I think he's still quite worthy of making it into the first round. So that's going to bring us on to Nate Wiggins, 5'11", 173 pounds, which is extremely slender and is a huge red flag for what we could expect from him at the next level. That being said, he did do that, lost all that weight in part to run a really fast 40, which he did do. He's extremely good long speed. Does it translate in the pads is the question, and he has enough athleticism to keep up with people. It does translate, maybe not necessarily the extremely good long speed, but just the fact that he has that athleticism, even if it doesn't quite match the 40 time that he ran. So Nate Wiggins is not supposed to be, his playing weight should not be as low as 173, or maybe I even adjusted that, whatever his playing weight. I feel like he weighed in at like the 160s, so I might have adjusted it halfway between his Senior Bowl and combine number there at 173. But I know he put some of that weight back on for his pro day, which is, once again going to be more like his playing weight. So the weight issue is really less of a concern, and the fact that he ran so fast it didn't change. Basically, none of that ended up changing where I have Nate Wiggins here. He's still my CB4, and he's always kind of been in this argument with the top 4 cornerbacks. At some point, to me, I would say actually it's more like he's in the argument with CB3, CB2, because I really like my CB1 and don't question that one at all. But he's still in that same argument, a little bit higher of a ceiling than Koolaid McKenry has. Also more boom or bust than Koolaid McKenry is as a prospect. But a lot of times in football and NFL teams as well, we're going to lean towards taking a slight risk on the higher upside, because those are the players who really can change games for you and for your team. Nate Wiggins still a good football IQ. He can mirror any type of wide receiver in any type of coverage, from press to zone coverage. He really doesn't have any kind of weaknesses in his coverage game. He's pretty much, you can put him on an island kind of guy. And the big concern with that was his lighter weight, and still is his lighter weight, is will he be able to maintain being that kind of guy at the next level, or is he just going to be too flimsy and being able to get manned by bigger wide receivers? Very possible. He's very fluid, very long. He's got great footwork. I will say one other thing that could be holding him back on draft day is that he had maturity issues coming into college. Now, since then, his head coach, Dabo Swinney, has praised Wiggins' maturity. However, it appears that apparently the interview process for Nate Wiggins did not go very well via sources. That could always have been a smoke cloud, a smoke screen from a team who really liked him a lot. That's possible. I do feel like that information came out before the smoke screens start to really come out in full force. So I tended to believe that it's very possible that he did not do the best with the interviews that could hold him back. And he will be a young 2021 by the start of the season. He's going to be 20 on draft day. So there is still, he's still maturing as a man. That isn't a surprise for a 20-year-old, but you just hope, as long as it's nothing that's going to hold him back, you'd think that teams will be able to overlook some of those maturity concerns. But as a tiebreaker, it might cause them to take my number 3 cornerback over him. Although different styles here. Cooper DeJean, also a first-round draft grade on Cooper, of course. Cooper is a multi-sport athlete, 6'1.5", 203 pounds. So he's built extremely well. You're not too worried about the injury issues, the durability for him. He's extremely versatile, depending on exactly what you think you're getting from him. He can play cornerback, he could play safety, he could play in that star role, basically as a nickelback, kind of a bigger nickelback kind of thing. He is a natural athlete, high football IQ, understands the game very well, and he has a take away the football kind of mindset via Connor Rogers. 43.5% of the targets were caught against him, so that's in the great area. Less than 50% of the targets were caught against him. That's once again, that's great. He's going to be able to be an asset on special teams for you, and he's just a really, really good player. He's also another young guy, 21 years old. So, love Cooper DeJean. Definitely recommend taking a watch of the tape for Cooper DeJean. But that's going to bring us on to my number 2 cornerback in Terion Arnold, who did not have an ultra impressive combine process, but it was doable enough. Just made clear that he's not an ultra high-end athlete. Like, I feel like some people talked about him as being, but really isn't. He's 5'11" and a half, 189 pounds. He is excellent against the run. He's got great vision as a cornerback of just watching the entirety of the field. He's aggressive, and he is a fast downhill player. The click and close on him is great, and that's where some people might say, oh, he's a really high-end athlete, but I think a lot of that comes down to his understanding of the play and the field vision and just being that much quicker and alert. He's got some outside-inside versatility for you. He can be a shadow kind of guy. He's another cornerback who you could put on an island and expect him to do quite well. He even had some work in the box in college. Let's see. He's good in zone coverage and only average in man coverage, but still, I think an area he's young. He's 20 years old. Like I think that is an area where you could see him getting better at as time goes on. He's still unpolished. And I do want to point out, some people might point to his interception total, and as far as I'm aware, that is one of those lucky interception totals, which I don't fully believe in 100%. Like, sometimes you create your own luck by being in the right spot at the right time because you are aware of the field and what things are happening, and then you have the ability to finish off that luck and come up with the ball. But apparently there was a little bit of that, and there can be some times where is truly just it's lucky that a guy comes up with the ball. That happens as well. So there is Terion Arnold for you. That's going to bring us on to my number 1 cornerback of the draft in Quintin Mitchell. If you did not know, stumbled upon him while very early on in the process, was looking for one more cornerback, and I was looking specifically for a guy who we thought we might be able to put in on an island, and I came to the name Quintin Mitchell, 6 foot, 195 pounds. Just loved everything I was seeing on him, and since then his stock has risen, and he was very quickly my number 4, and he's throughout the process has moved into my number 1 spot here for Quintin Mitchell. He had a 99th percentile in the forced completion incompletion rate. He has great breaks on routes, instincts plus IQ, great spacing, and competitive at the point catch. I got all positives here. Tends to be patient when playing man, doesn't get overly physical, but plays physically. Above average size, above average to good in his run support, above average acceleration, and very good long speed. Extremely strong upper body strength. He tested very well at the combine. Not super surprisingly, and all these numbers just go to support the fact that at the next level, putting him on an island, he's going to be able to match up athletically with some of the top-end wide receivers, whereas some of these other guys, the athletics might cause them to struggle against the higher-end athletes at the position. As far as weakness goes, his recovery speed deep can be an issue, but, you saw he does have the speed, so maybe there's something there that he could work upon. He can be overly aggressive sometimes and bite on the double move. Once again, I'll take an aggressive guy. That's kind of okay. And his transition out of the back pedal, once again, probably that deep recovery speed there, are just really his only weaknesses there. So a little bit over aggressive, and then the transition out of the back pedal when he gets beat, the recovery speed, are all things that could be improved upon. He was excellent in coverage in college. He did play. This is really the biggest knock on him that anybody could have, is just the level of competition that he played against in college at Toledo. Is not the same as a guy like Terion Arnold, like Cooper DeJean, Nate Wiggins, all of these other guys up here. So, and that was where this whole process has helped to push up his grade, because it's giving you the confidence that his game will translate to the next level, especially how well he did against his peers at the Senior Bowl. But that's going to bring us on to my cornerback gens of the 2024 draft, starting off with Kamal Hayden, who I have a 4th to 5th draft grade on. 6'1", 196 pounds. He excels in zone coverage. Got great ball skills and great anticipation. He is bad in run defense. He gets beat over the top, and he is below average arm strength. 2023 was really his big glow up year, so he doesn't have a big profile going back years to lean on in terms of his draft stock, how highly he should get taken. And his health has been an issue that should also hold him back. He's only played 22 games in the past 3 years as a starter. He had season-ending shoulder surgery in October of 2023. I'd say the positive to this is that sometimes these things happen with guys. He is not super slender or anything like that, so hopefully the medicals on him will be coming out positively, and in that event, I think you're going to get yourself a steal, really, with this guy in the 4th or 5th round. I think there's a lot to like about Kamal Hayden. That's going to bring us to Ryan Watts, who I have a 5th round draft grade on. He is a bigger cornerback here, 6'3", 208 pounds, tackling. Going to be an asset of his, especially when you think of the fact that he's got extremely long arms and wingspan. The physical presence of Ryan Watts is that of, very few cornerbacks in the league. He's great in run support, great in man coverage, and for a big guy, his agility, his quickness is actually not too bad. So that is a very positive thing for him. And the power in his lower half of his body, his base, is still pretty strong, which a guy with longer legs there going up against sometimes shorter wide receivers, you can get tripped up. So you like to see that they have a stronger lower body. Helps with the balance and everything, in my opinion. Some of the weakness here has a tendency to flip his hips early and get turned around in coverage. So just understanding the game a little bit better, higher IQ, and his pure speed is in a disadvantage. And his zone coverage skills are not great. All in all, his coverage skills are not the best in the year. 2022 was his pop year, and then he took a back step here in 2023. He worked out as a safety at the Shrine Bowl. With that size, that could make enough sense for him. Probably could work out as a strong safety, given his agility, quickness, size, get him up there in the box. Would all make sense. I have here a star candidate role, so that's your linebacker, safety, hybrid kind of guy at the nickel position, essentially, is how that role works. The athletic profile 100% backed all of this up, like I said, and I have a soft my guy tag on him, and this is a more recent my guy here in Ryan Watts. So that's part of why it's a soft my guy. I might fall in love with him more, or maybe I'll just be like, I'll learn some things about him, see some things. Oh, yeah, maybe I don't love him so much. But that is going to bring us on to Miles Harden, who is 5'11", 195 pounds. My final gem of this draft, who is at 5'11", 195, that's going to be on the girthier side, a very good build. You would not be too afraid about injuries for him due to his size, at least. A very good tackler. He plays very aggressively. He is very agile and quick, more so even for his size, but outside of thinking about his pounds per inch, he's still quite agile. He does a very nice job of recognizing and keeping his eyes on the backfield against the run, against the RPO, quarterback scramble, all that, which is an asset that I think is going to become all the more important in the NFL year over year. He's an excellent supporter against the run game, so keeping him close to the line of scrimmage is probably where we're going to want to keep him, but he does have some outside versatility as well. Inside-outside versatility. I'm thinking you probably want to keep him closer to the line given his assets and height. his ball production is a weakness. He hasn't had great production over the years. He allows separation at the top of the routes, his hip dip / agility issues there, very short arms, and he's extremely poor acceleration. So that could hurt him a little bit there, working from the slot with that acceleration. I will say his profile in college, his coverage abilities most recently in 2023 were better than our previous candidate here in Ryan Watts, above average actually, compared to all the rest of the college landscape. He's going to have to be a scheme-specific player because of some limitations in man coverage on the perimeter due to his short arms. He is probably best as a big nickel slot cornerback, so once again, we're thinking that's that kind of star role kind of guy maybe. He could be looked at like a strong safety, though. I think that would be a bit of a waste of his field vision, as he does such a good job of keeping his eyes on the entirety of a half of the field. So those are all, observations that I made about where you'd want to put him. I'm thinking I don't want him in the middle of the field. I kind of want him helping to just shut down a half of the field, because I think that he really can help like that. I think of him as a larger and less fluid Mike Sanistrell. So there is my comp for him, I guess, in this draft alone. If you miss out on Mike Sanistrell, Miles Harden, not a bad backup option to get there. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. He's a very chippy player. So I like him quite a bit as well. There is the entirety of my cornerback. Not the entirety. You can find out the rest. I played that advertisement before. You can find out. I probably have some 40-odd cornerbacks ranked in my rankings. So there you go. Peace out. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.